Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk to you about an audiobook that I just listened to. It's the first in a fantasy series called King's Dark Tidings by Kel Kade. This first one is called Free the Darkness, and I really just enjoyed it so much. It's got its issues, but overall it's such a fun ride that I think a lot of people could really enjoy. This story surrounds a young man named Rezkin, first through his early years of being brought up in a secret fortress in which he's trained to learn skills and follow the rules with a capital R, because they're the most important thing to him. They're what he is, all he is, and all he knows. There's at least a couple hundred of them, and they describe and inform in detail how he must behave as a man, how he must act in a fight, and how he must be fully and completely disciplined at all times. He's been trained by these masters of combat, of healing, of worldly things. He's taught as much as possible, and through this he's become a kind of one-man army. And above all those that trained him, that have raised him, are these two men, his masters. Rezkin is awaiting the day that they tell him that he's ready for his last test, which will officially make him a man, and for them to tell him rules 1 and 2, the only two rules that he doesn't know yet. This day comes in an unexpected way and throws Rezkin out of the life he's been raised into. So Rezkin goes off into the outworld, basically all of outside this place he's grown up in, and starts off on a search for some answers to the questions he has. So those last two rules he learned are something to keep in mind throughout the book. They are kill with conscience and protect and honor your friends. Rezkin's lived his entire life away from people. Everything he's ever known is this fortress that he's grown up in, and it's been an atypical situation to say the least. He has absolutely no idea what conscience or friends are. He was raised alone. He's the only child of this group of teachers. So when he's thrust out into the world, let's just say he doesn't quite fit in. Well, actually, he fits in a little too much. He's got an acute understanding of how people perceive him and uses social cues that he's only ever been taught and never actually expressed himself in order to navigate the towns and peoples he comes across. Smiling, for example, absolutely does not come naturally to him, and he must practice it in order to connect with people, even if he doesn't fully understand why it connects them to him. He flinches at physical touch, fighting off the urge to kill anyone who comes near him, but he's got to follow the rules. He's got to find friends, and he's got to protect and honor them, and he's got to learn how to do that. So the greatest appeal of this book, the great fun of it, is in experiencing the world through a character like this, and seeing how others experience and perceive him, because it's bonkers. This is a guy that's certifiably a sociopath. We see him do these crazy things with little to no remorse, and then that juxtaposed with his interactions with the everyday people that he encounters. This is a character that is just so consistently fun to read about, and he really drives the story. It's a mixture of the writing and Rezkin's characterization that pushes the story forward, because there's more to him than the rules, however buried down deep that is. He's got a personality that seems, at first, so off-putting, so dangerous, so crazy, but then evolves into this kind of strange naivety that's just really compelling and endearing. He's one of the most reliable characters I've ever read about, in that he never lies and can do almost anything. And on that note, something that I think could annoy people about this, and it honestly drove me crazy sometimes too, is that every character is really a part of the scenery for Rezkin. At least that's how it is on the surface level, especially with women. Almost every female character in this exists to love, praise, and be attracted to Rezkin. The main female character's personality is based almost in its entirety on how she feels about Rezkin. Her emotional well-being is determined by her relationship with Rezkin. So it's kind of maddening, honestly. A lot of the time, you just want her to stop talking because you know all she's going to say is something obsessive about Rezkin. And I think what saved me from hating this aspect of it too much is that there is a personality there behind all of that. You have to wait for it, but it does eventually come out, and overall I think made the insufferability of that whole thing a little bit less so. Also, Rezkin himself is not prideful or arrogant. He's honestly oblivious the vast majority of the time to this stuff, to how people perceive him, and to how women perceive him specifically, and doesn't really see himself in that way in the slightest. He's very naive in that way, and he does not actively look for that obsessiveness or praise or love at all. There's no part of him that really needs it, which actually, again, adds quite a bit of humor to the book. Rezkin's interactions with people are hilarious. I can easily see it really bugging a lot of people though, so I just wanted to make sure you were aware of it. Like I said though, I found this to be so much fun. I loved the writing, other than some of the characterization or lack thereof, and I loved Rezkin, and I loved following his journey. I think a lot of people would really like this, despite any of its problems. It ends at a bit of a weird place. There's no real big climax or rise and fall or payoff in this first one. It really feels like a small piece of a much larger work. And it is, as it's continued in the second book, Reign of Madness, which I'll be listening to very, very soon. And then I believe there's going to be a third book as well after that, also coming out soon. This was self-published by Kel Kade and then picked up for an audiobook by Podium Publishing. This is actually the same company that found and published an audiobook for The Martian by Andy Weir when that was still just a self-published book. They produced the audiobook, and eventually Andy Weir got a traditional publishing deal later on. So Podium Publishing is pretty cool. You can read the self-published ebook, but I highly recommend the audiobook. I think much of my enjoyment of this came from listening to it. It's narrated by a guy named Nick Podell, who, I think I'm saying that right, who narrated The Name of the Wind. And I know a lot of people really enjoyed that book on audio, so maybe give this one a shot too. It's enjoyable, it's fast, it's fun, and it's a great experience. That's all I really have to say about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're interested in reading this at all now, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear any thoughts you might have on it if you have ever come across it. And I'll definitely be reading the second one very soon, like I said, and we'll likely talk about it as well in the near future. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you later with more.